Sarah is going to present from the advanced manual Speaking to Inform, which is going to be speech project number 2, Resources for Inform. Sarah is a management analyst with the City of Columbus, and her day job has absolutely nothing to do with criminal justice or social activism. However, her mother is an attorney, and before she became an assistant prosecutor, sought help out with the family law practice, including some work on criminal defense matters. Or, in other words, she is biased enough that she's gone out of her way to find statistics to support her arguments today. Very exciting. So don't worry, there won't be a test at the end. Please welcome Sarah. Mark. Her speech is the cost of justice.
Good evening, fellow Toastmasters and guests. I am so excited to get to talk to you guys about this topic today. I am so excited, in fact, this is not even my only speech about this topic. You're going to hear about this more later, but today, just a little bit. We're trying to do this whole only talking for 5 to 7 minutes thing. I would like to know how many of you guys have ever been 10 years old? Everyone? Sure about? Okay, good. How many of you have ever had a kid that you've been responsible for making sure that they actually do the right thing? How many of you have screwed up?
You mean ever?
Yes, ever. Yes, ever. How many of you have been responsible for either a child or an adult who screwed up? Yeah. All right. Think about that situation. The situations that you've been in the past, and situations you might be in the future. And meanwhile, listen to me talk for a second about my guilty pleasure. Now, some people, their guilty pleasure, something like Days of Our Lives. That's still on, the soap opera Days of Our Lives, Guiding Light, one of those, right? Some people, their guilty pleasure is NASCAR. I have a friend who I have to hide on Facebook because all he does is watch NASCAR and constantly tell us every little thing about Junior and Danica and all of these people I could not possibly care less about. Well, my guilty pleasure is obviously neither of those things because I don't know anything about them. My guilty pleasure is watching Lock Up on MSNBC. I don't even know why it is that I love watching Locked Up, but I do. I watch it way too much, in part because there's really nothing on when Locked Up is on. When Locked Up is on, it's the only thing that's worth watching, and I have kind of a low standard for the whole what's worth watching thing, but in any case, my talk today is not about a single person that you saw on Locked Up if you've ever had a chance to see it. I'm talking not so much about the somewhere between 20 and 30,000 people in the United States who are vicious, horrible, depraved criminals who can never be redeemed. I'm going to talk about the 7 million other people who are involved in the justice system as either incarcerated individuals or people on probation, etc. Now, I don't want to just start throwing some numbers at you guys without any context. So, the minimum wage in the United States is $7.25 an hour, which comes out to about $15,000 a year. The median wage, that is, if you list everybody and you find the dude who is in the exact middle of every single person, there's about 175 million of us that earn money. That person makes about $28,000 a year. So just keep that in mind. About 1.7 million people were imprisoned in the Soviet Gulag in its peak moment, right when Stalin died. About 3.9 million people were slaves in the United States in 1860. There are about 2.6 million tossable poker hands, about 1.4 million named species, all named species ever. The odds of ever dying in a fall, 1 in 246. I was astonished by that one. The odds of ever being dealt a flush in poker, 1 in 508. You are seriously more likely to die in a fall. And the odds of ever dying in smoke or fire, about 1 in 1,116. Now, that's why I gave you some context. As of March 2012, there were 217,247 inmates in the United States. That's about 1,443. Of all the people in the U.S., about that many are in federal prison right now. It's the same as the population of Scottsdale or Samoa, right? And about half of them are there for drug offenses. About a quarter are in there for anything even remotely violent, including things like fraud and bribery, which aren't even actual violence, they're just an aggressive sort of thing against somebody else. There's about 38,000 people that work in this system, which comes out to 1 for every 6 inmates. It's pretty narrow. My kindergarten class had 27 people in it, so to give you a sense of 1 to 27, 1 to 6. And the fiscal year 2013 budget for the Bureau of Prisons is about $10 billion. How much did JP Morgan Chase lose the other day? $2 billion? Yeah, so 2-3 billion, something like that. More than that is spent on federal prisons. It's about $47,000 per inmate. State prison, this is where everybody is. 1.4 million inmates. That's like Hawaii. All right. Now, way more of them are violent. Okay. On the other hand, fully 18% of that 1.4 million people are in there for drug offenses again. California spends almost as much as the feds do. We are pretty good right here, $24,000, $25,000 per inmate every single year. You know how much it costs to go to SU? Less than that. Local jails. There's a lot of them too. 726,000. That's like the population of Columbus. Everybody in Columbus in jail? Yeah, pretty much. It's like Charlotte or Detroit to be exact. We have a little bit more than that. It's more than the population of Alaska, and 60% of them have not yet been convicted. All right, now I'd like to welcome you guys specifically, to federal prison. I hope you enjoy your stay. You're going to be there a while. The average person stays for 6 years, 7 years, no, not really, 2 years. 2 years is how long they spend, but if it's a drug conviction, think more like 5.5, something like that. And actually, I just gave you guys the girls' things. So everybody find a girl and give them down. Okay. Pass your 3 down and get 3 points. State prison is more fun than federal prison. There's the same number of people. That's awesome. Pardon? You guys aren't loved? Pass yours back. Thank you. Yeah. All right. Andy.
Yes.
Federal prison.
I just want to talk really briefly now that you're in prison. Why are you there? Well, you're there because we hate you. Well, okay, we don't hate you. Do you remember when you got sent to your room and your parents were like, get out of my sight, just go away? Yeah, that's part of prison. We're just pissed. Alright. We want you to stop doing what you did. We incapacitated you, we're protecting society, right? We're also trying to convince other people not to do anything. Your brothers and sisters, they probably were like, man, I don't want to go to my room. Okay? When you get suspended here at the city, everybody's like, dude, he got suspended. Oh, that's bad. We can't do what he did. All right. Rehabilitation, in theory, we want people to be nicer. I dare you to go to federal prison for 5 years and come out a nicer human being. I dare you. Seriously. Go do it right now. And finally, we hope that they'll pay back their victims. Right. So does prison punish? We're pissed off at them. So there's physical health at risk. Yeah, you get MRSA. Get AIDS, get violated physically, sexually, psychologically. Being locked in a room for 23 hours a day with the people you hated the most from high school, can't leave for 5 years. What do you tell me? Level of independence? Yeah, don't even go on. Social relationships. Well, as you guys may have noticed, I gave you your visiting schedules. You guys in state prison are pretty sweet. You get to see people up to 4 times a month. Federal prison, you have to be within 500 miles, excuse me, of your family. So maybe you'll see them a couple times a year if they like you, which they might not because you're in prison. Environment. Let's just not even go there. And spirituality, religion, and personal beliefs. I gave you guys a list of all of your religious options. If you're Mormon, too bad. If you're Muslim, pretty much too bad. If you're Jewish, well, maybe like once a week, we might be able to help you out. There's a Catholic service if you've managed to survive 90 days in detention. Oh, by the way, most suicides in prison happen in the first 90 days. Yeah. Suicide rates in prison aren't terrible. 14 per 100,000 inmates. Local jails, 47 per 1,000 inmates. The highest country in the whole entire world is Lithuania. I don't know what's wrong with Lithuania. 34 suicides a year. So it's basically more hazardous to your mental well-being to be in a jail than in the worst country on earth for suicide. 12% of all juveniles in prison get sexually assaulted in a given year. And we're pretty okay. 4 per 1,000 inmates murdered annually. Only, what was it? Only 8,877 fighting violations in Ohio last year. Pretty much things. So does prison make everybody say, I don't want to be in prison, I'll be a good person? Well, it doesn't really help the people who were there. 67% go right back. Right? 47% of all inmates in Arizona last month were serving a second term. Gangster rap, I can totally tell how much people are sad about the idea of going to prison. Does it provide? Does it make people better? Well, sort of. Out of 50,000 inmates in Ohio, 1,600 got their GED last year, which is pretty okay when you consider that most of them were below a 7.6 grade level. That's the average. And functionally illiterate, which means that they couldn't read a newspaper if they tried, is 20%. 80% had never graduated from high school. So we were working with some issues there. A bigger concern, and one that you guys are going to hear about more in 2 weeks, mental illness in prison. 73% of females in state prisons have mental illness. 17% of those in Maryland and New York have a serious mental illness. That is something that's so bad they should be in a mental hospital. But there are hardly any mental hospitals, so they're in prison instead. Yeah, I really like that one. I've always wanted to be in prison instead of getting medical attention. Don't you? Broken leg, and instead we, put you in a cage and hope that you'll get better somehow. Yeah. All of this comes down to costs. Because at the end of the day, what we really want is for us to be essentially paid back. Right? We want people to make it up to us. They violated us in some way. Well, so we say, you owe us $20,000 for having been bad. In addition to locking you up, you owe us $20,000. And then we pay them 12 cents an hour to work in prison. Yeah. The average minimum wage per state prisoner across the country, $4.73, not too bad, per day. Somewhat worse. It would take 50,000 hours, which is 5,200 working years, assuming you never took a vacation, to pay back $20,000 at $40 per hour, or 40 cents an hour, which is the very highest federal wage in prison, period. Yeah. And then, we can't forget the people that were hurt, right? Victim restitution, Arizona, I love this. Last month, the entire state of Arizona collected $11,000 for all victims of felons currently incarcerated, period. That's for all of them. Ohio, we did better. In Ohio, we got a whopping $78 a month out of the people who were paying child support in prison. So, I'm not going to make an argument here. I think this pretty much says it all. What is the cost of prison? Yeah. Stay tuned. More to come. Thank you.
This is getting depressing.
Yes. She's gonna inspire us now. Well, or
You
persuade.
wanted to know what was on our mind.